The lip gloss is popping today. Oh snap. I just try to look my best for you guys. But you know what I found out? Wait. Before we start getting into these book reviews, I have a bone to pick with you. Yeah, you. I see that you be watching all my videos, right? We're friends. I'm thinking we're friends. And then I find out that you're not even subscribed. Oh! Yeah, I found out. You thought I didn't have receipts? You thought I didn't have analytics? Yeah. About 30% of you guys are actually subscribed. But that treacherous 70%, inexcusable. Inexcusable. So let's fix that right now. Go ahead, I'll wait. Like and subscribe. Now that we got that awkward moment out of the way, I want to talk about all the books that I read in May. Now, if you remember, the last review we've done is in April, so it's been a minute. It's officially July now, so it's been a little hot minute, but that's okay because I read some incredible books. I've also read some not that great books, but we did find some really good 5-star reads. I followed the May TBR that we made pretty closely. The only book I didn't read was Really Good Actually, even though sorry, it was too easy. Even though I actually do want to read it. I want to read it eventually by the end of the year, but I didn't get around to it in May, so I'm sorry. And in June, I just randomly picked books that I really enjoyed. Really, really enjoyed. So I'm excited to go through those. First though, let's go through all the physical books because, as you know, I am now an electronic book girly. I got a Kindle. So I have books that I also read on the Kindle, and I was zipping through them and I found one that was absolutely incredible. So I'm very excited to talk about that. But first, let's get through the physical books. Now, I'm sorry, but we got to do my favorite book that I read in May. Miss Nicola Yoon and The Sun Is Also a Star was an easy 5 out of 5-star read. Now, if you remember, I absolutely loved Everything. I read it in a day, and I also rated it 5 out of 5 stars. She just has a way of writing romance novels in such a creative, out of this world unique way. Like, she's just a genius. I really believe Nicola Yoon is a genius. I am astonished. Every time I read one of her books, I'm just like, how are you connecting these impossibly different topics and interweaving them so well together? It's just absolutely mind-boggling. But before we start getting into all the praise, let me tell you why it's praiseworthy. So this book is about a Jamaican immigrant as well as a South Korean immigrant. They both live in New York City. The Jamaican immigrant, her name is Natasha, and the South Korean immigrant, his name is Daniel. Now they meet the day that she is supposed to be deported and go back to Jamaica because her dad made this crazy mistake, and they found out that they were in the US illegally, and so they had to leave, right? Now the story focuses on how they fall in love in this single day. Now, even me knowing how improbable that is, Miss Nicola Yoon had to have sprinkled a little bit of crack in between these pages because I was eating it up. I could not stop. I really believed, hey, maybe this is probable. Yeah, maybe this could happen. Yeah, we were here for it. But I think the magic really comes from the fact that she was able to interweave topics like the complexities of family relationships, romance, of course, and also racism and what it means to be an immigrant in the US and that kind of trauma that you have to deal with not being American enough, but also you don't know any other country. Even though you are technically from another country, maybe you were born and raised here and you don't understand why they hate you so much, why they're trying to send you back to where you came from type of thing. That ugly narrative, just such complex, really tough topics, but she somehow made it cute and interweaved it with romance and with them falling in love with each other and discovering little things about each other. It was just so well done. Perfect cliche Nicola Yoon. Very, very good. I mean, how probable is this to actually happen? Not likely, but I will say the ending wasn't cookie cutter perfect. There are certain things that happen that's more realistic, more believable. That wouldn't just happen in a regular romance. And I appreciate that she put a little bit of reality into it, but also it was really cute. It was very, very cute. I ate it up. Again, I read it in a day, 5 out of 5 star. Absolutely love this book. Now, I hate to say it, but that was the last 5-star read that we had in May. That means we're going downhill from here, but not too far downhill, at least at first. So the next one up that I read in May is The Paris Apartment. This is by Lucy Foley, and I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars for many reasons. I was going through it and I was really trying hard to like not DNF. Okay, side note, I know DNF means I don't want to finish it anymore, but what does DNF actually mean? It kind of reminds me of like SOS. Like we all know what SOS means, but do we know what SOS means? You know? Anyway, I was trying not to DNF, that's what the book girlies say. I feel like a millennial trying to stay cool. Sorry. Anyway, I was trying not to just put it down and not finish it. Not finish it. Do not finish. Did not finish. Did not finish. DNF means did not finish. Whoa! Big brain, big brain. I wonder if I can do that with SOS. Survivors on shore. Survivors on shore? Is that what SOS means? No. Hold on, we gotta look this up real fast. First, let's see if I got DNF right. I'm sorry, this is all over the place. Did not finish. I got it right. Go ahead. Thank you. Now let's see if I got SOS right. Oh, it's Morse code. Did you know that? Or is it just me? Save our ship is what it means. Okay, I was kind of close. I said survivors on shore. I wasn't too bad off. All right, save our ship. Wow, you learn something new every day. Anyway, I tried not to DNF this book because in the middle it was just getting really boring. Basically, this whole book is about this girl. She gets in a little bit of trouble. She's from like the London area. So she goes to visit her brother and she asks him if she can stay with him for a while. Now, the day that she was supposed to go and live with him for a little bit, she goes and knocks on the door and ain't nobody answering the door. And all her neighbors are acting weird, or all of his neighbors are acting weird. And then he doesn't show up the next day, and the next day. And then we slowly try to figure out what happened to our brother. And it was crazy. You realize certain things about his neighbors and how they're all kind of interconnected and their relationships that they had with him. The one good thing that I really liked about this book was that there was different POVs. I liked that we could see how each person knew the brother. His name was Ben, I believe. Well, her name was Jayus. His sister's name was Jayus. And yes, his name was Ben. So Ben and Jess are siblings. Jess goes to visit Ben, but Ben ain't home. And Ben ain't been home for a minute. And there's a reason. I'm sorry. Anyway, yeah, so she goes to visit Ben. Ben hasn't been home for a minute. She's starting to freak out. All of his belongings are in his apartment still. And so she starts following the clues and tries to backtrack to figure out what happens to him. The reason why I didn't like this book is because I felt like, first of all, it summed up a little too perfectly. That's not how it would have happened in real life. It did not feel very realistic, and I didn't really appreciate that. Secondly, I generally like POVs, right? I like to hear different people's opinions and different angles of the situation at hand. But there were so many different POVs in this one. It was the brother, the lady upstairs, her husband, their son, their daughter, their other son. Like, it was just so much, as well as Jess's experience through all of this and stuff like that. And it was just so much going on. I felt also that a lot of this stuff I could figure out and discern on my own. And that kind of just takes the fun out of a thriller. That's the whole point of a thriller, for you not to see it coming. Now, there was one thing that I feel like no one could have really figured out that genuinely got me, but everything else I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And I was figuring it out as I went, and it just took the fun out of it. I don't know. It wasn't a bad thriller, but it wasn't a really great one either. So 3.5 stars, not bad, but yeah, you know, I don't have to read this again type of thing. And then you know what else I read? I freaking read Exit West. Now, this was the worst book I read. It was just not good. I gave it 2.5 stars, or no, I think I gave it 2 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. It just was not good. First of all, when I first started reading it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be so good. I love how the author writes. I love that it's setting up the story. I love everything about it. Basically, this whole story is about this guy and this girl. They kind of meet in school and they start to fall in love with each other. But they're in a war-torn country, so they don't really have time to get to know each other and slowly develop this love, because they're just trying to survive every single day and still somehow see each other and stuff like that. But at the same time as this is happening, around the world, these mysterious doors are opening and they're allowing refugees in and out of these doors so that they can find safety. I think that premise is so freaking cool. And initially, again, it was really cool, and I felt like everything was setting up the story perfectly for it to be incredible. But then it just kept going on like that. It always felt like we were setting up the story. It never felt like we were actually in the thick of it trying to figure out this resolution. Like there was no real plot. And I didn't realize how much I hated that until I was reading this book. Like the entire time I just felt like, okay, when are we gonna get to it? When are we gonna get to it? And it just didn't happen. Like I was so disappointed in this book because I really thought it was gonna be another 5-star read, like one I could not shut up about. The entire time it just felt like we were talking about nothing. And once I got into like the 3/4 part of the book, I realized this is gonna be it. And I was just so disappointed because I'm like, bro, like there could have been like something, I don't know. And it just felt very, almost incomplete. It just felt like there was not enough, you know, like it just felt like an appetizer for the book. Where was the main course? Where was the steak? We didn't have any. We just had bread and water. That's what it felt like. 2 out of 5 stars. Don't shoot the messenger. Then the last 2 books I read in May were pretty short. One of them that I really, really enjoyed was The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. And it was just so cute. It's kind of a children's story, but not really, because it's just life lessons masked as a children's story. So the illustrations, I mean, look at that, just gorgeous. And the writing, I just think it's so cute. And this entire story is just about little snippets in someone's mind and just wisdom about life. That's really all it is. It feels like a hug from grandma, or hanging out in the summer. Like for me, in the summer, I used to hang out with my grandma and we would just be around the house or go to the beach or something. And she would just randomly say a really pivotal life lesson. Just randomly, cooking or something. And, you know, money doesn't make you happy. Find real friends that will make you happy. No money can buy that. Just randomly like that. That's what this book felt like. And it was so good. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I read it in like 30 minutes because I was taking my time to look at all the illustrations and stuff, but it was really good. I really liked it. Now, the last small book that I read in May is The Go-Giver. This was written by Bob Berg and John David Mann. I did not know that until this very moment. Anyway, this whole book is supposed to be like a self-help book into being successful. And the main premise, the main takeaway from this book is that to be successful, you need to be a good person, which I feel like is fine. That makes sense. I feel like everyone should be striving to be a good person, whether they want to be successful or not, right? It's about this guy. He works at a company. He's just trudging through life, trying to get the next promotion. He is overworked and tired, and he just feels like he's going nowhere in his life. Now, his boss has a connection with like a higher up boss, not in the same company, but this guy who's made millions of dollars. He's super successful, and he's like, you go talk to him. He goes and talks to this guy, and every day they meet for lunch, and every day he teaches him a new lesson at how to be successful, right? And I just felt like that setup alone was just, why are you making it so mystical? If you're saying that these are life lessons that I can genuinely take into the real world, why is there an air of like mystery and illusion in it? You know, like it just doesn't feel like something that can really be applied in real life. And it just summed up way too perfectly. It was like if Disney Channel and the Disney Corporation decided to make self-help books, that's what it felt like. It was just so cheesy and like, I don't know. It just did not feel realistic. I feel like everyone should be shooting to be a good person, even if you're trying to be a millionaire, a billionaire, or whatever. And you can take that approach and just be realistic about it. But this just felt like very fairy tale-esque. And the reason why I didn't rate it any lower is because the things that they were saying, I thought were genuine good information. Not necessarily to be successful, but also just to be a good person. You know, I just feel like I'm saying the same thing over and over. Basically, it's not a bad book. I feel like there are good life lessons in it. I believe in karma, and I think that if you're a good person, good things will come back to you. If you were a bad person, even if you get a few good things that happen to you, eventually that bad karma is going to come back to you. So why not just be a good person? Not just because you want good things to happen to you, but because you want to be a good person. And people flock to the good. Like, you get more flies with honey, you know? That type of situation. That's the whole premise of the book. But they just made it, I don't know, they made it weird. 3 out of 5 stars. Those are all the books that we read in May. Again, not bad, but not super exciting. But we had the complete opposite reaction in June. And it's all because of one book. And that is Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. Now, I gotta say, we gotta clap it up for y'all because I would not have picked up this book without you. Now, again, I say it all the time, but I absolutely love our Goodreads community. I'm literally on it every single day. I love seeing what you guys are reading. I love voting on your polls. I comment on like different books and like different opinions that people have, and I just absolutely love it. And that is where I found this book. One of you guys followed me on Goodreads, and I saw an update, and I believe her name was Aaliyah. So shout out to you, Aaliyah. She was reading Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine, and I was like, I'm curious. That's a interesting title. Let me read the synopsis. Then I read the synopsis and I'm like, oh my god, this seems like such a dark book, but also kind of funny. I don't know. Let me just get it. And this is when I first got my Kindle. So I picked it up on Kindle. I saw that it had amazing reviews, and I'm like, let's just give it a try. I read this, no joke, in like 2 days, and I have 1,000 other things that I've got going on, and I just could not put this book down. It is by far the best book that I've read all of 2023, and I would not have read this without you guys. So thank you. Just thank you so much. I love our Goodreads community. I just love seeing what you guys are reading, and you guys have good taste. Like, you're the best friend I did not know I needed. So thank you. I love you. Shout out to you, Aaliyah. Now, the reasons why I love this book, let me just get into it. I have never met or read about a character as unique as Eleanor. Eleanor, she's like in her 30s. She's working at a mundane job. She doesn't love it. She doesn't hate it. She's just existing. She's just existing in her life in every sense of the word. She does not have fun. She completely sticks to her routine, like to the T, right? And you would think that that would be really boring. And somehow just going through her life, her daily life, I did not get bored. Usually I need like a plot, I need something to be happening, but the way that Gail sprinkled little information from her childhood about Eleanor throughout the book really kept my attention, really kept my gaze, and oh my god, I don't even know how to explain this book. It was so good. Something happened to her in her childhood. I don't want to go into it too much, but she had a really horrific childhood, and it left a scar on her face. And you're just trying to figure out throughout the entire book, like, first of all, why is she so weird? Like, she doesn't understand any social references. She has absolutely no friends. She doesn't talk to anybody. No one talks to her. She gets kind of made fun of at work, and she doesn't even care. Like, she doesn't talk to any of her coworkers. She doesn't go out of her way to talk to them. And just the way that she perceives the world is honestly hilarious. Like, this author, she did such a wonderful job with like talking about absolutely horrific topics, and somehow I was laughing throughout the entire book. Like, I was like, am I a psychopath? This is nuts. Like, really horrible childhood trauma, but just the way that Eleanor was throughout the entire book, I could not help but laugh and like root for her. I fell in love with this character immediately, and she is just so different and so unique and just not the type of person you thought that you would fall in love with. But here I am, like from the jump, I was in love with this girl. I was rooting for her. I just wanted her to be happy. And wow, I feel like this book was a great way, if you were dealing with childhood trauma, it's a great way to force yourself to think through it too, because it presents this information in a very harmless way, even though the contents is really deep and horrible if you think about it on its own, but she presents it in such a beautiful way. And then Eleanor, she finds a friend at work, unassuming though, like she didn't even want this guy as a friend. His name was Raymond, and oh my god, Raymond is like an angel. He looks after her, but like not in an overprotective, like overly involved way. He was just there, you know, just present. His presence was enough in her life, and it was just so beautiful to see them naturally become friends, and to see her slowly but surely get out of her own shell and move past her own trauma and to grow from her own trauma. And wow, all I can say is wow. This was one of the best books I've read all year, and I highly recommend you read it. And I would not be recommending this book without our Goodreads community. So again, thank you, Aaliyah. Thank you for our Goodreads community. You guys are the best. One of the best books I have ever read, ever. Now, there are some notes that I wrote about it that I don't want to forget to mention. Oh my god, I know what the note is. I made a note for myself. So in the book, Eleanor, as she's starting to get out of her shell, she's trying to change her life and like actually have a social life, she falls in love with this musician, right? My girl gets obsessed with this musician. Like, she's planning her future with him, how they're gonna fall in love, how he's so perfect and things like that. She like follows him and stuff, really creepy, like over the top, but not like dangerous or anything. She was just being a creepy fangirl, right? But you fall in love with her, you accept it or whatever, but you also know like she's delusional, right? Do y'all remember? Do y'all remember how my background was Jungkook? Do you see something different? Yeah, that's because of this book. She was obsessed with this musician. He had to be a musician. She was convinced that she was gonna marry him. And then as the book progresses, she slowly realizes this musician is not going to be the love of her life. He's not going to fix all of her problems. The work that she has to do is on her own, and she has to do the internal work to love herself and to move forward by herself. No man or love is going to fix that for you. The way that she put that out there, because I knew she was delusional, but then the way that she explained it made me realize I was delusional. There's no reason why I should have Jungkook, as fine as he is, as my background. As soon as she explained that, and I was having this epiphany, immediately, expeditiously, I changed my background. I mean, he can still be my background, because it's just right here, you know.
Weird, buddy. You're weird.
And sometimes, you know, accidentally I press it again and he becomes my background again. But I am trying, okay? I am trying to be better. I'll see you later. So I changed my background to something just unassuming. Eleanor was hitting a little too close to home. She made me feel like I needed therapy. And maybe I do, I don't know. But wow, just a beautiful book. And I thought that was really funny. So in the future, when you guys see my background, it's probably gonna be some rocks. Until I get therapy, it's gonna be some rocks, okay? Anyway, amazing book. The best book I've read all year. I highly, 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 highly recommend this book. I feel like at the end of the year when we do our wrap up, this is still gonna be number one, or if not, like still top 3. Love this book. Amazing. Thank you again for Goodreads. Now the next book, it wasn't as good as that. I don't think there's ever gonna be another book that tops that in that way, but it was a good book. It was a decent read. It was, let me find my notes. Yes, it was The Soulmate Equation. I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars. It has the fake dating trope, the not enemies to lovers, but they didn't like each other at first. It was about this guy. He was a geneticist. His name was River, I think. What kind of name is that? Anyway, his name was Dr. River Pena. And he created this system where you can not decide definitively like who your soulmate is gonna be, but it just tells you the highest probability of this person being your soulmate. Now, getting a really high score, like a 98, 95%, that's really, really rare. But that's what most people strive for. And the girl, her name is Jessica. Jessica gets matched with the actual geneticist who created this company. And they have like this outrageous score, this really, really high score. And so they decide to fake date to promote the company, kind of. It just goes through them falling in love with each other. She's a single mom. She doesn't really believe in love anymore, but she's like not anti-love, she's just very skeptical because she's been hurt before. And the guy that she had her child with wanted nothing to do with her child. And so she's very protective and she's kind of closed off. Now River, he's kind of closed off too, but not for the same reasons, obviously. He's just like very cautious. He's always put all of his work first. He only thinks about his job because that's all he's ever had, really. And his grandma like took care of him. And so he's a family guy, but he's also very shielded and just focuses on his job. Now these two shielded people fall in love with each other, and it was really nice to see. Like, the humor was good, but it was still the classic Christina Lauren cheesy and different parts, and I was just like, ugh. I don't know, the dialogue always gets me sometimes, but regardless, it was still like a fun, light, romantic read. It did not leave lasting impressions on me. I did not think about it when I was finished reading it, but I did enjoy it. So a solid 3.5 out of 5 stars. Now the next books that we'll be looking at are the ones on my Kindle. I'm sorry guys, I am brand new. I am an electric e-book girly now, so now I have books on my Kindle. I can't even keep a straight face, I'm sorry. But these are the books that I read on my Kindle. The first one that I read was Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. Now, this is my first Abby Jimenez book, and I have to say, for a romance novel, the dialogue was so refreshing. I genuinely found myself laughing out loud multiple points in the book, which is unheard of in romance dialogue. I feel like generally it's really cheesy and unrealistic and cringy, but the dialogue between the two main characters in this one was so good. I loved their banter, their back and forth. It was just really cute. So both of these main characters, her name is Jess. No, the girl's name is not Jess. The girl's name is Brianna. And his name, Jacob. His name is Jacob. All right, so they're both doctors, right? Brianna, she is an emergency room doctor, and Jacob is too, I believe. But she's really focused on her brother right now. Her brother, he needs a kidney donor really bad, and it's just not looking likely. So she's not really in the headspace to be looking or discussing love. And she just got through a divorce, so she's just not in the headspace for love, right? And Jacob is kind of coming off the same vibes. Like, his girlfriend started dating his brother, and he's gonna marry her.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah. A really sticky, terrible situation. And so the first time they meet, they have this like awkward run-in, and it was just not positive. But over time, he takes the initiative to apologize to her, and he writes her a handwritten letter. If a man wrote me a handwritten letter to apologize, and it was thoughtful and like well put together, and it took him time to write me, married expeditiously, okay? We wouldn't even have to have another conversation. I would just write him back, when's the date? Yeah, that's what it would be. And then they wrote letters to each other back and forth, and it was just so adorable. I thought the premise, the idea, how they came to be was so cute. Now, I have to say, there is a fake dating trope. He has social anxiety, and they're not really like wanting to be together at first, right? But then, of course, slowly they decide to fall in love with each other, and it's really beautiful. The only con I have with this book that drove me to madness, I was in the middle of it, and I was like, there's so many things I like about this book, but if this one thing keeps happening, I'm gonna have to DNF this book, because it's just getting too much. And that one thing was the miscommunication. Oh my God. By the middle of it, even close to the end, the miscommunication was so bad. I felt like anybody and their mom could have seen that they were in love with each other. The girl, she just, like, I understand. She was going through a lot of trauma. She doesn't trust anyone because of her past husband, that situation. And trust me, I understand. But there were just certain things that I was like, there's just no way. There's no way you don't know. Maybe it was a coping mechanism and stuff like that, but why do we have to be dragged in it? All the way to the end of the book, she's like, oh, he's talking about someone else. He doesn't love me. Ma'am, get your head out of your own butt. This man loves you. Acknowledging your own trauma and pretending that someone doesn't have these very real, very obvious feelings for you, those are two very different things. And I just could not excuse it anymore. And it was just so repetitive. The entire story, the entire story was about this miscommunication. I was like, bro, do I have to spell it out do I have to jump into this book and tell you face to face, this man is in love with you? It was just ridiculous. I could not understand. So it could have been a 5-star read. It really could have. But I had to give it a 4-star read, because that miscommunication was like taking all the positives and just pooping on it. It just, you know what it felt like? It felt like, do you guys remember in SpongeBob where SpongeBob is trying to tell Patrick, like, put your hand on top of the lid, right? And he keeps saying, the lid, and Patrick is putting it on literally every other place but the lid. That's what it felt like, trying to convince this girl that this man loved her. It was so obvious to everyone else but her. And I was just like, all right. Some of the excuses she was making up too to pretend like he didn't love her just didn't make sense either. And I was like, bro, you could wrap this up in 100 pages. There was no need for all of this. So that was annoying, but besides that, it really was a cute, enjoyable romance novel. And the dialogue, chef's kiss. Romance books rarely do that right, and Abby Jimenez did that very, very well. Now, I will be reading her again, but but I am going to make sure I do the proper research because I want one that does not have a lot of miscommunication, because that, like, I can tolerate the fake dating no matter how unrealistic it is. I think it's cute. I don't mind that. But the miscommunication is just, I can't do it. I can't do it. It was just too much. That's all I gotta say. Very good book though. Now, the last one in June, I haven't technically finished. And that book is, let me go to my Kindle. Oh my God, it's Right Move, okay? I was like 50 pages in and I'm like, bro, I cannot finish this book. It was just so obviously written by a female author for a female book loving audience. Like, it is not realistic in the slightest. The commentary is just so sitcom-esque, like very cheesy. And they really lean into the, I'm a basic girl, like I love Starbucks and I only drink iced coffee, and it's just like, oh God, like I don't know. I don't know. I'm, again, only like 80 pages through it, but it has been a journey to get to that 80 pages. Like, we're not having fun. We're going downhill quickly. I've only been reading it at the gym too. Usually, like when I'm hooked on a book, I will take it every single place with me. In bed, I'll read it. I'll read it when I get out of the shower. I'll read it as I'm eating dinner. I'll read it while my family is watching TV. Like, I am hooked. I am forcing myself to read this book. Like it's medicine or homework or something. Like, I am trying to get through this book because I don't like buying something and not seeing it through. Or just investing time into something and not seeing it through. Now, that has bit me in the butt so many different times because I've finished shows that I've hated from the beginning just because I need to know what happens. Like, I don't know, I'm a finisher. Like, I need to know, even if I hate it the entire journey. But this has been a real struggle. It feels so fabricated and so fake. I just can't get into it yet. But I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to continue to read it until I finish it, and I'll put my score here. But as of right now, it ain't looking too good. But those are all the books that I read between May and June. And again, we had some high highs and some low lows. But all in all, I had a really fun time reading all of these books. And if you guys enjoyed any of them, please follow my Goodreads, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. I love you, bye! Mwah.